Hello, good morning. Welcome to another week where we talk about business. It is Business 360, and my name is Blyden Okem. In Business 360 today, we'll look at the transactions that happened this week, what the stock market entails, and all the angles to it. We'll also talk about the commodity market and x-ray some tiny details regarding the Israel-Hamas war, as well as the COP28 event, the climate change event taking place in Dubai. Well, we begin with expected economic data releases for this week. In the United States, the focus will be on a highly anticipated U.S. labor report, followed by JOLTS jobs opening and the ISM Services PMI. Additionally, preliminary readings of Michigan consumer confidence, factory orders, and trade data will offer insights into the economic landscape. Internationally, monetary policy decisions are expected in Australia, India, Canada, and Poland, while inflation rates will be closely watched in China, Turkey, Switzerland, South Korea, the Philippines, Mexico, Russia, as well as African countries. Our GDP growth rates from South Korea, South Africa, Brazil, and Australia will also capture global attention. Furthermore, service PMIs for China, Spain, Italy, and Brazil, alongside with updates on industrial production and factory orders in Germany, alongside Canada's IV Purchasing Managers Index, will contribute to a comprehensive view of global economic activities. Additionally, attention will be on foreign trade data releases from Germany, Australia, China, and France. Still on the foreign scene. Music streaming giant Spotify has said it will reduce the number of its employees by around 17% in a bid to cut costs amid dramatically slower economic growth. Spotify in October posted a rare quarterly operating profit of 32 million euros compared to a loss of 228 million for the same period a year earlier, on the back of 26% growth in active users for the third quarter. Spotify has invested heavily since its launch to fuel growth with expansions into new markets, and in later years, exclusive content such as podcasts. It has invested over $1 billion into podcasts alone. While the features in the market has been totally different to look forward to, as we x-ray some of those details taking place in the world of business. Culminating factors in the world of business get to set the templates. Amid the war, the U.S., being the middle country, are taking center stage regarding the war between Israel and Hamas. The U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris engaged in a speed round of diplomatic talks with Arab leaders on Saturday, where she focused on shaping the outlook for a post-conflict Gaza, while calling on Israel to do more to protect Palestinian civilians. Meanwhile, a report came out on Saturday from the health ministry in Hamas-run Gaza. They said the death toll had surpassed 15,200 and 70% of those killed were women and children, and it's a big concern in the Middle East amid supply disruption around the world. Let's hear from the Vice President.
As Israel defends itself, it matters how. The United States is unequivocal. International humanitarian law must be respected. Too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. Frankly, the scale of civilian suffering and the images and videos coming from Gaza are devastating. I have spoken with members of the Palestinian, Arab, and Muslim communities of America, including those who have lost loved ones in Gaza and American citizens who were injured and evacuated from Gaza. It is truly heartbreaking. I've had enough.
Meanwhile, the UN Climate Change Conference, COP28 in Dubai, United Arab Emirates, is all about implementing the Paris Agreement and ramping up ambition and action. It is an opportunity to identify global solutions for limiting global temperature rise to 1.5 degrees, inform countries' preparation for revised and more ambitious national climate plans, accelerate the green transition that is already happening, and ultimately achieve the delivery of the Paris Agreement goals. Meanwhile, the UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres gave a speech at the opening ceremony of the World Climate Action Summit. Let's find out more.
Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, President of the United Arab Emirates. I want to express my profound gratitude for the wonderful hospitality that we are enjoying in Dubai from the government and the people of the United Arab Emirates. COP28 President Dr. Sultan Ahmed Al Jaber, I want to congratulate you on the positive start of the COP, with an expeditious approval of the agenda and the landmark operationalization of the Loss and Damage Fund. Congratulations. Your Majesties, Your Highnesses, Your Excellencies, friends, all protocol observed. Just days ago, I was on the melting ice of Antarctica. Not long before, I was among the melting glaciers of Nepal. These two spots are far in distance, but united in crisis. Polar ice and glaciers are vanishing before our eyes, causing a shock the world over, from landslides and floods to rising seas. But this is
climate change, a big concern to the world, and the requirement for green energy. It's also the talking point in the conference and summit. Meanwhile, King Charles delivered an opening address of the COP28 summit, his first major climate speech since ascending the throne. The monarch has devoted such and much of his attention to the environment over the last several decades. It will be the third time that the now king will deliver the opening speech, having done so at Glasgow's COP26 and at COP21 in Paris. Let's hear from the monarch, King Charles.
Your Majesties, Your Royal Highnesses, Presidents, Prime Ministers, Ministers, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan for his warm invitation to speak to you at the opening of COP28. 8 years ago, I was most touched to be asked to speak at the opening of COP21 in Paris, which of course culminated in the Paris Agreement, a landmark moment of hope and optimism when nations put differences to one side for the common good. I pray with all my heart that COP28 will be another critical turning point towards genuine transformational action at a time when already, as scientists have been warning for so long, we are seeing alarming tipping points being reached. I've spent a large proportion of my life trying to warn of the existential threats facing us over global warming, over climate change and biodiversity loss. But
in Africa, the World Bank projection of Somalia's economic growth in 2023 has been cut down from 3.6% to a revised 2.8%. This is due to several reasons. However, the World Bank places a huge emphasis on Somalia's water system. This information was relayed via the bank's latest edition of Somalia's economic updates. As economic activity picks up, Somalia is expected to strengthen over the medium term, with growth estimated to progressively increase to 3.7% in 2024, 3.9% in 2025. The country was granted entry into the East African bloc a few days ago. In Kenya, Kenya has signed agreements for 7 green projects including geothermal generation plants, fertilizer production, and a renewable energy powered data center at the ongoing COP28 summit. President William Ruto is advocating for Africa to evolve into a green powerhouse. Kenya has secured a $1.5 billion green fertilizer project with Festoque Future Industries. It also secured a $1 billion geothermal project at Sasu with the Indonesian government. Kenya already generates 92% of its electricity from renewables such as geothermal, hydro, and wind, according to reports. The country has ambitious climate targets, including planting 15 billion trees and rehabilitating 10,000 wetlands, aligning with a focus on nature swaps. Meanwhile, the foreign ministers of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger have proposed the establishment of a confederation as a step towards the long-term objective of uniting the West African neighbors within a federation. The top diplomats of the Alliance of Sahel states met in Bamako for 2 days. The purpose of that discussion was to elaborate on the functioning of the new alliance. In September, the military leaders of Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger established the Alliance of Sahel States, a mutual defense pact. Meanwhile, Mali and Burkina Faso, ruled by juntas who seized power in coups in 2020 and 2022 respectively, had rushed to back Niger's military rulers when they ousted elected President Mohamed Bazoum in July. It's a story regarding those 3 countries and the pacts. They call it the defense pacts. Now in Nigeria, the federal government has disbursed 135.4 billion naira to states and the Federal Capital Territory following the second independent assessment of results obtained under the Nigeria COVID-19 Action Recovery and Economic Stimulus. The national coordinator of the NGK's program, Dr. Abdul Karim Abaje, conveyed this information in a statement by Suleiman Adapu, the Information and Communication Officer at NGK's. The NGK's initiative, supported by the World Bank, with a budget of $750 million, is a multi-sectoral program aimed at providing essential emergency relief to vulnerable and poor Nigerians, with a particular focus on supporting smallholder farmers and SMMEs severely impacted by the effects of COVID-19 pandemic. Abaje noted that the fund allocated was linked to the result of states and the FCT in their effort to assess the underprivileged under the NGK's initiative. According to him, Nasarawa, Cross River, and Zamfara states emerged as the top performers, securing 13.6 billion naira, 10.9 billion naira, and 10.2 billion naira respectively in the second round of the program assessments. Meanwhile, no fewer than 91,214 relatives of deceased workers under the contributory pension scheme have gotten 356.32 billion naira pension settlements. The National Pension Commission revealed this in a second quarter report on approval of death benefits. It stated that 92,752 requests were submitted, but it rejected 1,528 from the inception of the scheme till the end of the second quarter of 2023. Among those approved are 59,058 and were under federal government service, 9,246 under state government, while 22,910 were under the private sector. In the second quarter alone, it stated that a total of 2,049 beneficiaries requested the death benefits of deceased employees or retirees. Out of that, 2,042 requests were approved, while 7 were rejected due to incorrect documentation. We'll go on a quick break. When we're back, we'll look at global economic standings all around the world. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. It is Business 360 and my name is Blyden Okem. Now to global economics. Global growth prospects are looking good. All global sales indexes increased in November. Talking about November sales. November sales manager survey data suggests that the three biggest engines of global growth are at least or at last, all indicating renewed global growth. Almost all sales indexes in China, the United States of America and India are now either positive or moving in a positive direction. India in particular is showing business confidence at a 44th month high. But confidence is now looking good in all the three leading players in the world economy. The Global Sales Managers Index is at a 24-month high, rising rapidly since last summer. Amid this conversation, let's look at the charts indicating Global Sales Managers Index November. Let's look at the charts. According to the charts, as indicated this morning, the baseline of 50 indicates growth and the one downward indicates decline. As in March 2022, it was that of mixed fortune, slightly above 50 and then dropping downward. By July 2022, Global Sales Managers Index, which represents business confidence around the world, was on the negative. By November 2022, went up slightly, but not up to 51 index level. By March 2023, it had crossed the index level of 51, showing high level positivity. But currently, this November, we have seen growth in terms of Sales Managers Index for November, implicating increase in business confidence around the world. All global indexes are now positive, and the Sales Growth Index is up at 27-month high, and the Market Growth Index at a 9-month high, and even the Jobs Index, which has been looking rather miserable through most of 2023, is showing signs of life with a positive 50 index level reading and at a 5-month high. Even price inflation for so long has been riding high and forcing central banks to raise interest rates, but no longer appears to form a serious threat, with a global price index sinking to a very modest 51.2 reading, compatible with modest price rises. Good news around the world regarding this. Meanwhile, the Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell has said that premature it is to speculate on policy easing. The strong action we have taken have moved our policy rate up and well into restrictive territory. The Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell spoke during an event at Spelman College in Atlanta. Let's hear from the Federal Reserve Chair.
And demand conditions that we've seen has played a critical role in the disinflation, the coming down. Normalization of supply and demand conditions that we've seen has played a critical role in the disinflation, the coming down of inflation so far, as has the substantial tightening of monetary policy and overall financial conditions over the past 2 years. The strong actions that we've taken have moved our policy rate up and well into restrictive territory, by which we mean that tight monetary policy is putting downward pressure on economic activity and inflation. Monetary policy is thought to affect economic conditions with a lag, and the full effects of our tightening likely have not yet been felt. The forcefulness of our response to inflation also helped maintain the Fed's hard-won credibility, ensuring that the public's expectations of future inflation remain well anchored. Having come so far,
Well, investors are looking at what the Fed would do moving forward. Will they end rate hikes in order to fight inflation? Or is there a good indication that inflation has slowed down? Let's talk about commodity markets. Brent crude futures fell towards $78 per barrel today, sliding for the third straight session and remaining under pressure amid uncertainty over OPEC Plus voluntary output cuts and a weakening global demand outlook. Last week, the group of major producers agreed to an additional 1 million barrels a day output, an output reduction early next year, although cooperation from individual members is required. Brazil is also set to join the alliance next year, planning to increase its output to 3.8 million barrels a day. On the demand side, weaker than expected manufacturing activity in the US and China stock fears of softer energy demand in two of the world's largest oil consumers. Meanwhile, our traders continue to monitor geopolitical developments in the Middle East as fighting intensified in Gaza over the weekend. Let's move to the market and see what the prices are this morning, beginning with the energy market, and afterwards we'll look at the metals and agricultural commodities, the energy market this morning. According to a market structure this morning, the price of crude oil, US crude, which is the West Texas Intermediate crude, stands at $73 per barrel, dropping slightly this morning, a 0.318 point decline, a negative 0.43% decline. Brent crude, which is Nigeria's price benchmark, the current price is $78 per barrel, downward by a negative 0.67%. Natural gas slightly downward, a negative 3.78% decline, and gasoline dropping slightly, heating oil gaining slightly, and coal gaining 1.35 point this morning, a 1.02% gain. Now to the metals. The metal market. The gold price, it's upward by 1.88 points, hitting record highs at 82-month high of $20,072 per ounce, a 0.09% appreciation. For silver, silver is slightly downward this morning. $25 per ounce is the price of silver, negative 0.9%. Copper a little here, a little there, a downward, steel dropping 20 points this morning. Now to agricultural commodities. The agricultural market has shown 10-point decline for soybeans. A soybeans price this morning is $1,315 per bushel, for which price is slightly upward by 1.46 points. $578 per bushel is the price of wheat. Palm oil is downward by 49 points. 3,825 Malaysian ringgit per ton is the price of palm oil. And now to cryptocurrency market. A Bitcoin rallies to 20-month high. Bitcoin rallied about 4% to above $41,000 today, the highest level since April 2022, and extending the year-to-date gain to 150%, as investors get increasingly confident that the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission will approve the conversion of the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust into an ETF. Expectations about approval increased after SEC officials met with BlackRock, the Nasdaq, and Grayscale, with officials expected to make a decision by January. At the same time, growing expectations that the Fed is done with a tightening campaign and could cut interest rates as soon as next year have also boosted cryptos. Smaller tokens, such as Ether, were also up by 2.9% this morning. Now quickly, let's go to the cryptocurrency market and see what the prices are, and afterwards you look at euro against the US dollar and the naira, the crypto market this morning. The price of Bitcoin is at $41,634, gaining 1,908 points this morning, 4.8% appreciation, and quite bullish. Ether price is upward by 73 points, and Binance gaining 8.3 points. It's the story. Quickly, let's look at the euro against the US dollar and what the standings are. The euro against the US dollar this morning has some positivities adding to it, and the market is moving on the negative anyway, not quite positive. The euro against the US dollar points reach is at 1.08 mark this morning, a negative 0.03% decline. The pound against the US dollar current price level is at 1.26 point mark and slightly on the negative. Now the naira's perspective, the US dollar against the naira. 789 naira